Hello and welcome to my Aries season decks. So once again, this is based on Western astrology in terms of the dates. So let's get into it. For Aries, the dates are March 21st to April 19. They are a fire sign, so they tend to be creative, outgoing, very passionate. I guess I'd say a more shadowy trait would be that they might be a little impulsive. So we've got a cardinal, so they are very quick to action. They do not procrastinate. They are a ram, so they tend to be leaders. They like to rise to the challenge and charge ahead. Colors associated with Aries are red. They tend to be quite fiery, maybe a little bit loud. The tarot card is the Emperor, so someone that is dominant, someone that has power, and that can take charge. Mars is the planet, so there is a masculine energy, they're energetic, they're assertive, maybe a little bit sexual. It's the first house, so the house of self-image with the words I am. It tends to rule over your actual appearance, your traits, your self-expression. Some archetypes associated are the warrior, the pioneer, the daredevil, and the survivor. I say that generally Aries get shit done and make decisions quite quickly, but they can sometimes be impulsive and impatient. If I had to pick a song for Aries, I would pick Cool Kids by Måneskin, because Aries are cool kids, but they're also punks. So let's have a look at some decks. So the first deck, a deck that I don't own that I think would be very Aries, is the Mars Power Tarot. As soon as I saw this, I was like, yes, hands down. I have been going to and fro myself with getting it. I like the holographic version, but I think it's called the Mars Power. It's Mars already in the title, is associated with Aries. It's fiery, it's loud, it's brash, it's ragey. And I know that people tend to associate rage with Aries. And yes, I'd say I'm an Aries rising. And I would say that, yes, I do feel rage. I don't always express it, but I do feel it. So I think that this deck channels out really, really well. It's kind of like rebellious too, maybe a little short-tempered, but really energetic. It looks like a super energetic deck and quite wild. So I would say if there was any deck that sort of epitomizes Aries, I'd probably go with the Mars Power Tarot. So out of the decks that I have, let's take a look. So we'll start with, this is the Mythos. Oh, there they go. They're very slippery cards. This is the Mythos Tarot. So the backs are very warm in oranges and reds, and it's got gold gilding, and it's a mass market deck. So I had to choose a god deck for Aries, because I feel like we kind of feel like we're gods and goddesses. You know, we've got that vibe. I think it comes from the Emperor Tarot card as well. I find that this deck is kind of a strong-willed deck. It's got that energy of the Greek pantheon in it, and the Greek pantheon gods are a raucous bunch. You know, they're quite lively, I would say, and dramatic, very spirited. There's also a lot of gods are very, very charming. They've got that charisma, that confidence going for them, which I also feel are Aries traits. Maybe they're a little bit self-centered, but hey, you know, a little bit self-love ain't too bad. But I also just love the color scheme. I know that Aries is also associated with reds, but I just feel like it's got the bold colors as well. Like it's just very punchy. And this one is also filled with beautiful people. It's like, it pleases my eye to look upon it. Just a lot of hot models in this deck. But this was one of my choices for Aries season, and it's the Mythos Tarot. Okay, so the next tarot deck that I've picked, so this is just based on what's in my collection. These might not all fit, but I did the best that I could with what I've got. This is the This Might Hurt Tarot. So this is the indie version, and I know it's mass market now. So I chose this one because this is quite a direct deck. It's quite blunt. It's literally called, well, you know, This Might Hurt. And I feel like Aries are very blunt and direct. It's also, I don't know, it's got an adventurous feel to me, especially with some of the characters. They just feel quite rebellious and risk-taking, very sort of action-oriented. Like this looks like a bad bitch right here. So I feel like this is a bit more of a motivating deck as well to get you off your ass and into inspired action. I also just really love the use of color in it. So each suit has a different color scheme. So the wands have the oranges, the warm hues, and then you've got the cups are the soft blues. The major arcana does its own thing, which is great. The pentacles have the muted greens, and then the swords, if I can get to a sword to show you. Well, these are fantastic though. I just love the modernity in this deck. The swords, here we are, have more of a, I guess it's between a blue and a green. But now side by side, I don't know, now I'm feeling like it is just another shade of green. But I just feel like, look at this person's outfit. It's just so assertive. I just feel like there's quite an assertiveness to this deck, which is why I have picked it as an Aries season deck, and that is the This Might Hurt Tarot. Okay, so next up, we have actual playing cards deck. So this is the Key to the Kingdom, but just look at the colors on the bag. I feel like that's an Aries bag. The Keys to the Kingdom. And I chose this mostly because it has a very primary color palette and it is quite bold. The images are quite striking and a little bit daring for a playing card deck. There's also a bit of a spontaneous vibe to it. There's not an exact formula that it's following. It kind of does its own thing, but I just find it really dynamic and I enjoy the energy and the breadth of illustrations in this deck. I think it's just really stylish. I think Aries are quite stylish. But yes, very bold, very vivacious. It's memorable, to say the least. And this is why I've chosen it, and it is called The Key to the Kingdom. Okay, so next up we have Primordialis, the Great Mother Oracle. So these are the backs. Once again, I feel like black and red are very Aries. And this is a very primal deck. It's primordial, and Aries is the first house of the zodiac, and I feel like it really does have that primal energy to it, that origin energy. This is a very strong deck. It doesn't pull any punches. There's also a kind of protective energy to it as well, like a fierce mother, you know, that mother bear protecting her cubs kind of energy. And I feel like Aries also has that kind of energy. It comes from that warrior stereotype where we want to protect others that we care about and we are willing to fight for them and are not afraid to get our hands dirty. Like I said, this deck doesn't beat around the bush. It gets straight into it. It's a very deep deck. It's a very confronting deck, I would say, for a lot of people, even just some of the imagery alone. But I love its strength personally. So this is the Primordialis Oracle. Okay, so next up we have the Outlaw Oracle already on the box. Independent, authentic, rebellious. So it's also in a cigarette box. And I feel like if there's any sign that would most likely smoke, it might be the fiery Aries, who probably don't always put their health first, you know, do first, act first, think later kind of energy. But this one is it's got a dominant, extroverted energy to it. It's quite proud. It does feel a little bit impulsive and impatient. As you can see, I've modified mine with some stickers. I'm not afraid to deface property, I guess, in that way. I feel like this deck does simplify, you know, that freedom kind of energy. Wild horse, you know, you can't tame them. It's a bit exciting, and probably just a little bit sexy as well. You know, it's a bit of a, you know, wild and hot deck, and it kind of taps into the energy of the place. And I just feel like it's all of those movies, like what's that movie with James Dean, something Rebel, like it's got that kind of vibe to it. Rebel Without a Cause, is that it? I'm probably embarrassing myself, but you know, that's what I feel. Definitely a lot of confidence in this deck. Living and loving life on the run, you know, so this is the Outlaw Oracle. Okay, so the next deck I've chosen are the BuzzFeed Oracle cards. So these all have different backs. They are all in very bright, primary, in-your-face colors. You know, it's definitely not a shy deck. This is a very direct and to the point deck. If you want a quick, fast read, I would pull this out. It's got a couple of keywords for each one. Like I said, the primary color palette is very bold as well. It's energetic deck. This is not a deck that I would pull out if you want a really calm, gentle reading. It's got a bit of, what's the word? Upbeat. It's got an upbeat energy to it. Even though not all of the cards are positive, it's still sort of like, okay, take it and move on. Like, don't dwell on it. Just hear what you got to hear, accept it, and run with it. It's a bit exciting as well. It's got the ties, especially the nostalgia ones, to your past and childhood. So it's really fun in that way. It's like a throwback to the past. It's sometimes funny as well, depending on what's being represented. So there's a sense of humor there, and I think Aries are kind of funny. I like to think they're hilarious, but this is a really helpful deck, and also feel like Aries do like to be helpful. They might not be the most patient, but they will probably jump in. And I think that's the same way, like in anything, like they will be one of the first people to jump in. They've got a lot of courage and bravery in that way. Okay, so next up in this little, I feel like this is an Aries bag, you know, it's got the vibe, is my self-care deck. So I based it on this oracle, but I made my own cards for it. I feel like those bags come with their Aries, right? It's quite flashy. I feel like Aries are a little bit flashy. But this deck, you know, is a self-care deck. It's about me, moi, and I made it myself. I feel like those are all I am kind of things. And I feel like this one is, I think it's got a bit of a flirtatious kind of energy to it, a sexy energy. It's a little risque in some of the images. Sorry, I just realized there was a picture of me and my kids in here. I'd say there's a bit of a, there's vitality to this deck. I feel like I did put a bit of that fiery, passionate, personal energy that I have into it. There's a lot of bad bitches in this because I admire them. Like, come on. It's hot, hot, hot. It's full of sexiness, guys. It's sexy, sexy. But yeah, I feel like it's a very more of an extroverted deck. It's got that sort of independent energy to it as well. You know, it's wild, it's loud, it's brash, and it's probably not what you would expect from like a self-care oracle, which might be more gentle, but yeah, I just went with a totally different vibe. I guess I was probably tapping into my Aries with this one in particular. I wanted to make it just a bit more fun and a bit more lusty, I guess. You know, like I've chosen very sexy, confident, assertive, strong, dominant people in it, mostly. Like, freaking Catwoman, guys. So yes, this is my very sort of out-of-the-box self-care deck that I channeled a lot of, I guess, my Aries passion into. And it's my final choice for the Aries season. So go get it. Whatever it is that you want to get, go get it. My dudes, get on it. Channel that ram and just charge ahead. So until next time, stay wild, Star Child.